When we're designing landscapes, we often talk about the importance of green spaces, but blue spaces are just as important, especially in winter, when green spaces can tend to look a bit brown and a bit grey. And blue, that water, is a really important calming element that can really improve our mental health, especially during those cold winter months with the short days. Right now you can see the reflections in this pond. It's just one of 7 which I've put in across my rewilding project. See, you might think of ponds as good for biodiversity in terms of damselflies and frogs and things like that, but you might not consider that they're also good for biodiversity in terms of things like foxes, things like herons, and other animals and wildlife which come into the land and use the aquatic ecosystem temporarily. They pass through the system and use it en route somewhere, use it as a watering hole. Just like you might see in the Serengeti in Africa, you see lots of animals coming into the landscape specifically for this source of water. The same thing happens in the UK if you've got a pond, if you've got a river, if you've got a stream. And I've seen it here in the UK. I've got footage of a fox even in the middle of winter walking across the pond, searching for a patch of water to drink when everything else is iced up. So ponds are not just great for the kind of biodiversity which lives in them, but also the kind of biodiversity which comes to them in order to get water, in order to find a place to hunt. They're brilliant for disturbing the land as well. They change the hydrology, they make the ecosystem very different. They alter the system by draining the land around them, and by retaining water on the land throughout the year, they change the dynamics of the water as it flows through the soil. It means that during the middle of summer, it's much easier to find water in the landscape, which is good not just for the wildlife around, but also for humans. My neighbours in the next project over who are raising goats have been using the ponds here to water their goats during the summer. And there are definitely ways in which rewilding projects can serve not just existing biodiversity needs, but also the needs of the community and farmers in the area. We've seen that in the terms of beavers. Beaver dams have been creating areas which are being drought resilient, especially last summer. We heard of farmers who had beavers on their land who were bringing their cattle to the beaver ponds and letting them drink there. It was a fantastic way of battling these unheard of drought conditions that we haven't seen for maybe 50 years. I managed to get 3 of the ponds all the way through the season with water in the bottom of them, and that just brought in a huge amount of wildlife right in the height of the drought last year, including things like swallows, which you might not expect to sort of be drawn in by ponds, but need somewhere to come down to drink. So there's lots of things which ponds offer in the landscape. They're good for mental health, they're good for the kind of biodiversity you might expect to be associated with them in terms of frogs, in terms of damselflies and pond plants. They're also good in terms of the community benefits, providing water for livestock, and they're also good for the kind of wildlife which comes in transiently, which comes in occasionally. So what benefits do you think might be associated with ponds which I haven't mentioned here? It would be great to get some insights into other benefits of ponds.